Similar to modern society, sports were a popular pastime for people living in medieval England. Even more surprising is that some of the most enjoyed sports of today were also popular during the Middle Ages. However, many viewers will be shocked to learn that these 4 favorite sporting activities we enjoy today were actually banned in medieval England. These banned activities included football, called soccer in North America. Why? In this episode, we will present 4 banned medieval sports which are still popular today, and the weird reasons why they were outlawed. Medieval football was banned over 30 times. When we think of modern football today, it is a high-profile sport which combines great skill, grace, and wonder. Often called the beautiful game, it is the most popular sport in the world today, including modern England. Though during medieval times in England, football was not played on manicured pitches or inside giant stadiums. The Middle Ages version of a playing field was a whole town or village. Therefore, goal lines could be miles apart from each other. The ball, usually an inflated bladder from an animal like a pig, was not limited to play by one's feet. There were very few rules in medieval football, so you could run with the ball in your hands while opponents could kick and assault a runner to get that ball. In fact, fouls for roughness and violence were rarely if ever called. Stabbings and even murder occurred during these matches, which could last for days before one team got the ball past their opponent's goal line. Speaking of teams, there is no limit to the size of a team, with these games usually contested between different villages or towns. This predecessor of modern football has been named folk football or mob football. Then came a law which would be unthinkable to football fans today. King Edward II banned this sport in 1314 AD in London because he felt it was a public nuisance. Punishment was 6 days imprisonment in a dingy medieval cell for violating the ban. In 1349 AD, English King Edward III also banned this sport for similar reasons. Folk football was banned nationally in 1388 AD because it took men away from the practice of archery. King Edward IV also banned this sport in 1477 AD. Some researchers estimate there were over 30 bans on folk football in a period of 350 years, beginning with the first in 1314 AD. So, how could this happen in, of all places, England? Here is a case of where country had to come before sport. In medieval England, various monarchs viewed folk football as a national security issue which took manpower away from preparation for their numerous battles. In the case of Edward III, after the devastations to its population from the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317, followed by the Black Death reaching England in 1348 AD, there was a serious problem for raising armies. These catastrophes led to a shortage of able-bodied men to serve as soldiers. Meanwhile, folk football caused injuries and harm to the very soldiers needed for armies, so men were banned from playing football by the monarch. This was just one example of various bans on folk football over many decades. However, by the year 1845, these older laws had been repealed. Folk football has evolved over hundreds of years into modern football, with rules and football pitches. In modern times, the violent play of folk football has disappeared, with a rough tackle today not resulting in an opponent's death. Medieval tennis is corrupting peasants. Modern tennis is a popular sport enjoyed by millions around the world. The ancestor of modern tennis originated in France during the 13th century. Monks played a game in their courtyards at medieval monasteries called jeu de paume, though instead of rackets, it was played with your bare hands or leather gloves. The ball was made from leather or cork. This game arrived in medieval England during the 14th century, where it became popular among both the working and upper classes. In the Middle Ages, nobility viewed real tennis as a bad influence on masses of peasants, feeling it disrupted their work ethic and production for feudal masters. The nobility also implied that vices like gambling formed a destructive part of entertainment when lower classes played real tennis. In reality, the nobility wished to exclude the lower classes from a sport they wished to establish as a pleasure strictly for the upper classes. Slowly, the upper classes transformed the game with costly equipment, a code of etiquette, and strict rules of play to make real tennis into a sport for the wealthy. They built elaborate standardized courts at their manors and palaces, with scoring similar to modern lawn tennis, though the design of courts and rules differ today from medieval England's real tennis. To ensure real tennis became a game for the wealthy only with no peasant involvement, monarchs introduced bans. Edward III banned this early form of modern tennis in 1365 AD. Other edicts against this early form of tennis included Henry IV proclaiming that all laborers and servants were to stop playing this game. In 1477, Edward IV accused tennis of causing crime, poverty, and even murder in the lower classes. Therefore, in the year 1485 AD, it was deemed illegal for anyone but the nobility to play tennis, with Christmas Day being the only time commoners could play the sport. Now you know why one popular title for tennis is the Sport of Kings, with monarchs like Henry VII and Henry VIII being passionate players. Today, the sport of tennis is played or watched by millions of people all over the world. Those are my fish only. For centuries, people have fished lakes, streams, rivers, and oceans. Though in medieval England, it was an activity that could place you in serious trouble with the law, depending on what you caught. Since 1322 AD, if you catch what are considered royal fish anywhere in the realm, you are technically stealing property from the monarch. Royal fish include sturgeons, dolphins, and whales. Even if they wash ashore, according to this law, they should be offered at first to the monarch. Of course, this rarely occurs in everyday practice. By the way, it is still illegal today to catch royal fish. Interestingly, the punishment for breaking this law is unknown. Stay away from bowling lanes, you peasant. The origin of bowling goes back many centuries. It is such an old sport that scenes picturing an early form of bowling were discovered on wall drawings inside a royal Egyptian tomb from 3200 BC. The balls were made from grain husks, stuffed into a casing like leather, and held together with a string. So, why would such a harmless game be banned in medieval England? Leave that answer to English monarch Edward III. In 1366 AD, he banned bowling because it was so popular among soldiers that it interfered with their archery practice. For those that broke this law, you were lucky to escape with a statutory fine of 6 shillings 8 pence. Of course, the rules for nobility were different. If they possessed property worth more than £100, a license could be obtained which allowed you the privilege of bowling. Bowling enthusiast and English monarch Henry VIII banned the peasant classes from bowling altogether in 1511 AD. After centuries of being law, this ban was later revised. Similar to modern times, sports were an important part of medieval life. It is also surprising to note some of today's most preferred sports were also popular in the Middle Ages, though with rules in place suited to the social norms of their day. However, the harsh realities of medieval society meant pleasure for everyone was second to battles, preparedness for disasters, and maintaining class distinctions. Thank you for supporting us at Medieval to Modern. Please be sure to watch another episode shown at the end of this video. Also be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I wish you good tidings as we remember that sharing knowledge has been a noble deed throughout the ages.